A young boy was currently on his bed under the throes of heat-induced agony as his entire body is racked with fever. His spiky blonde hair is matted with sweat as he tossed and turned as if suffering from a nightmare. The young boy's name was Uzumaki Naruto. Many would ask why such a kid is alone on his bed without anyone to care for him while he was sick. The answer is simple. Naruto is an orphan and is considered as the village pariah. Naruto grew up in Konoha alone with only a few of its people showing him kindness and love. A major part of the population treat him like a pariah, with the rest are just indifferent to his existence. He grew up not knowing his parents, and all he got from the leader of the village, which he affectionately calls Gigi, that they both died the night of the Kyuubi attack, the night he was born into this world almost 8 years ago. After he was tossed out of the orphanage at the age of 5, the Sandaime Hokage bequeathed him the use of a rundown apartment at the western edge of the village with a weekly allowance for food and supplies. He grew up alone since then, with only the Sandaime visiting him from time to time during his free time. Forced to grow up on his own, Naruto showed a maturity that shouldn't exist in an almost 8-year-old boy. He should be playing around with the other kids of the village without a care in the world. But the animosity of the villagers was passed down to their children, thus young Naruto grew up shunned and alone, with only himself as company. Unknown to Naruto, he was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the nine-tailed demon fox, that attacked Konoha on the day he was born. But despite everything that happened to him, the hateful glares, the harsh words, the ridicules, and the occasional beating on his birthdays, he still retained his childlike innocence that he happily shows to those that he loved, dropping his mask of indifference and coldness that he usually wears in front of the rest of Konoha. While the child was tossing and turning in his sleep, deep inside his mind, another presence woke up from its deep slumber by the sudden sickness that racked the body of his container. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was confused. His millennia of experience did not prepare him for the sickness that suddenly gripped his vessel. No matter how much of his chakra he sends to his vessel's system to get rid or overpower the problem, it was continuously rebuffed as if an unknown force shielded his vessel's body from it, and no matter how hard he tried, which was exceptional in his case, nothing bore fruit. Oh, he was trying hard, oh yes he was. The Kyuubi felt fear for the first time in his entire existence, for he knows when his vessel succumbs to death, so would he do to the Shinigami's godforsaken seal that trapped him inside the boy. Despite all the things he did to his vessel's body after the sealing to ensure that he survives whatever ordeal he will face when he grows old enough to be on his own, this blasted fever was slowly killing his vessel, and no amount of regeneration and increased chakra capacity can do anything about it. So while his vessel suffered for hours under a very high fever, Kyuubi was doing his damn best to manipulate his energy towards his container just to get rid of the problem. Hours he worked, but nothing seemed to work. Desperation forced the immortal being to work harder, but all his efforts were futile. In the end, Kyuubi sighed and pulled all his energy back into its body and waited for his death to come. What an idiotic way to die. Me, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the most powerful Bijou, death due to fever. I don't know if I should feel humiliated or disturbed. Kyuubi grumbled. He sighed again and gazed back at the pipes running through the ceiling of the sewer-like cavern that he was imprisoned in, noting absently the brownish energy appearing and disappearing along the pipes. He shrugged it off as nothing. He was about to go into a nap when the same energy pulsed again. He raised an eyebrow at the phenomenon. His curiosity piqued. He focused the limited senses he had on the body of his vessel and noticed that instead of the body deteriorating due to sickness, the unknown energy was slowly improving his host's body. Interesting. It seems that my vessel isn't dying after all, but what is happening to him? He mused as he stretched his senses again to check on his vessel's current condition and was surprised at what he found. All his years alive in the world did not prepare him on what the energy was doing to his host's biology. Chakra coils were being improved, especially towards the major senses. The unknown energy was saturating his vessel's cells with purposes unknown, guessing that it was actually improving everything it touched or even changing to purpose unknown. Interesting indeed. It seems that my time in this world is not yet at an end. We shall see where this development will lead. Surprise me, my vessel, on the time that we meet. chuckled QB as he laid his head down on his paw for a nap, no longer afraid that death would claim him during his rest. Naruto woke up from his feverish sleep without any concept of time. He can feel his weakened body protest as he tiredly swiveled his head to check on the clock beside his bed so he can determine how long he has been asleep. His eyes widened in shock when he saw the date. 2 days. He's been asleep for 2 days. How in the world did that happen? His incredulous state, however, was broken when his stomach grumbled, telling him that he was hungry, very hungry, judging from the racket it was making. Despite his weakened condition, he painfully forced his body to get off his bed despite the creaking of locked joints and sleeping muscles. He lumbered over to the bathroom and relieved himself before taking a cold shower. He braced himself for the sudden rush of cold water since the apartment didn't have any heating system installed and would be too expensive for him to do so on his own. To his surprise, the water is surprisingly warm, so he lavished in the feeling and took some time to get rid of the sweat and grime that he accumulated due to his 2-day coma. He got out of the shower, muscles no longer sore and totally relaxed. He padded over to the sink to brush his teeth, but when he saw his reflection in the mirror, his jaw dropped at the sight before him. "What the heck happened to me?" he shouted in surprise, awe, and slight fear at the sight before him. He was surprised that his short and malnourished state was replaced by an athlete, noticeably better for someone his age, as if he was eating healthy and exercising his whole life. He was considered as the runt of the Shinobi Academy, being the shortest of his age group. But now, he was standing at least 5 feet 1 inch, very tall for his age group. He also noticed that his body is no longer displaying skin and bones. Sinewy muscles lined his body, and is quite evident every time he flexed and stretched. Replacing his gaunt thin frame was a chiseled body that could easily make an athlete green with envy. He is now sporting a well-chiseled chest, ripped six-pack abs. His biceps were well-defined even for someone his age. To be honest, he was happy despite the fact he could never figure out what happened to him. He was ripped and he loved it. Some might find it weird that his body suddenly changed overnight, but for him it was a godsend. He happily, yet tiredly toweled himself dry and went to his closet to get something to wear before heading over to Ichiraku Ramen for a hearty treat. After all, it was his birthday 2 days ago, so treating himself to a hearty meal is normal. He foregone his usual orange jumpsuit since it no longer fit his new frame. He opted instead for a black shirt and gray baggy pants that the Hokage gifted to him last year, but he didn't wear it since he could never forgive himself for wearing any but orange. Checking himself in the mirror and found everything to his liking, he grabbed his trusty frog wallet, affectionately nicknamed Gamachan, placed it in one of his pants pocket for safekeeping, and left the apartment. Despite how tired he was, Naruto marveled at the improvement of his body. He no longer felt weak and lethargic that he used to feel due to his malnourished state. In fact, he felt that he could run around the village at maximum speed without tiring, though he decided to avoid doing so since his stomach was demanding his attention in earnest. As he walked through the street towards his favorite food stop, he partially ignored the hateful stares directed at him by the villagers. However, he almost tripped when he heard them despite their distance. Look at him, walking down the street as if he owns the place, the demon brat. Naruto looked around and saw no one near him. He was confused as to where the voice came from. However, his confusion increased even more when his ears were assaulted by various people talking despite the fact that they were too far away for him to hear. Damn the Hokage for enacting that law. If it wasn't for that, then the demon brat should have been killed a long time ago. Shut up. There are ANBUs around. We don't want to get in trouble just because you said something you shouldn't. Naruto swiveled his head to the direction of the noise and saw 2 of the merchants talking in hushed tones. He can clearly hear what they were saying despite the fact that they were far away from him. Deciding to test his theory, he followed the rest of the noise to see who was speaking. "I wonder if I should get an apple for my sister," a girl in front of a fruit stand was saying while checking out the selection of fruits in front of her. Deciding it best to test out his body through training, he started out with a few laps around the training ground to check his physical limit. He noticed that his speed has improved, as well as his stamina. When he reached his usual 5-lap limit at top speed without getting winded, he increased his pace and proceeded to just run until he got tired. He moved through the trees like a blur, avoiding upturned roots, occasional rabbits and squirrels, even jumping from one branch to another just for the fun of it, all at top speed, which was 10 times as fast as he used to have. It took him a total of 3 hours before he got tired enough to stop, which was an amazing feat in itself. He dropped down on the grass and stared at the clouds while pondering the sudden improvement on his body. He already tested out his speed and stamina, so the only thing left is his strength. He spent a few more minutes to rest his tired muscles before standing up and moving to one of the bigger trees in the clearing. He relaxed himself with a few deep breaths before going into the standard Academy Taijutsu stance and took a deep breath before releasing a powerful fist towards the trunk. The results shocked him. His fist met the trunk and pulverized the first few inches of it. At the strength he released, he didn't even feel any pain on his knuckles, which was another shock to itself since his healing wasn't even that fast to begin with, and he usually suffered some mild ache after releasing a strong punch on a tree or training dummy. He continued to punch the tree in earnest, increasing his strength until he reached his limit. After 30 minutes of punching, the tree he was practicing on finally gave way and fell, releasing a loud crash that echoed throughout the clearing. Naruto was shocked at the power of his punches. He looked at his knuckles comically, then at the tree, then back at his knuckles. He grinned. He need to tell Hokage Gigi about this. He ran back to the village at top speed, leaving a trail of dust and dry leaves in his wake. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, was mourning as he continued to fight the godforsaken paperwork that littered his desk. He's been working at it for hours now, and the pile didn't seem to lessen. In fact, it seems to have grown a few inches more. He cursed but refused to stop since he knew that the damn paper would multiply like rabbits if left alone. He sighed as he stamped another hateful document with relish. How he longed to have a distraction just so he could take a few minutes of rest. His prayers were answered when the door to his office was opened with a loud bang, revealing a widely grinning Naruto, his surrogate grandson. The grinning face brought a smile to his lips despite how tired he was of his work. It was a miracle how someone of Naruto's reputation always brings a smile to his face despite the hardships that the boy went through. He knew that he would either go suicidal or homicidal with all the punishment the boy went through. He frowned, however, when he noticed something different about the blonde. Naruto was taller, more muscular, and the lack of orange on his clothing brought alarm bells ringing inside his head. He chose to ignore it and wait for an explanation that he surmised would be the reason that the blonde visited him. With a smile still plastered on his face, he addressed the boy. "What brings you here, Naruto-kun?" the Hokage asked the smiling blonde. "Gigi. Something amazing happened to me," Naruto exclaimed with excitement. The Hokage quirked an eyebrow at the declaration. "This should be interesting." "Really? Well, grab a seat and tell me all about it." The Hokage gestured towards an empty seat in front of his desk, which the blonde happily took. "I had a fever a couple of days ago, and I woke up this morning and found my body changed," blurted blonde. "Really now, Naruto-kun? What do you mean changed? Please tell me everything and don't leave anything out," demanded the Hokage in a soft voice, trying to puzzle out the drastic change in his hyperactive surrogate grandson. Naruto scratched the back of his head while gathering his thoughts. "Well, I woke up this morning tired from getting a fever a few days back. I went to the bathroom to take a shower, and when I stood in front of the mirror, I saw that I became taller and got these cool muscles now. I feel so strong, I can hear even from far away, smell and taste better. It's all so cool," declared Naruto with childlike exuberance. Now the Hokage was worried. Such changes to the body can only have a few explanations. But in Naruto's case as the Kyuubi vessel, such changes could possibly mean that the beast was making the changes for the boy, which was never a good thing. It is also possible that there are other reasons as well, but this requires a thorough check by a medic Nin. He decided to satisfy his curiosity and proceeded to do just that. "Well, Naruto-kun, if you're not busy, maybe we can go to the hospital and have your body checked to make sure that everything is all right." After all, suffering from a fever for days and having your body changed might cause some problems later on. Seeing Naruto nod, he pressed a button on his desk and informed the secretary that he will be taking the rest of the day off due to an important, impromptu appointment before proceeding to grab the boy on the shoulder and shunching it out of the office to the front of the hospital. He let go of the boy and gestured for him to follow. A lot of civilians and shinobis bowed down to the Hokage but gave Naruto a glare which the boy ignored. The blatant disrespect towards the boy made the Hokage frown, but he pushed the incident to the back of his mind since there is something more important to take care of. They reached one of the offices that littered the building and entered without so much as a knock. The doctor, who was filling out a form behind his desk, saw his visitor and immediately stood up and gave the Hokage a bow. "Hokage-sama, what do I owe the pleasure of this visit?" He also noticed Naruto peeking behind their leader and gave the boy a smile. "Why hello Naruto-kun. Is it time for your monthly checkup again?" "Hi Kaido-ji-san. Hokage-ji just told me to follow him, so I did," answered Naruto. He really liked this kind doctor since he was the only one in the hospital who was kind to him and took care of him every time he needs to visit the hospital. The Hokage addressed the smiling doctor. "Good afternoon, Kaido. Something strange happened to Naruto, and I would like you to give him a thorough checkup to make sure that nothing is amiss." He added the last part with extra emphasis, indicating that this is possibly a Kyuubi matter and doesn't want the boy to know about the beast yet. Kaido quirked an eyebrow at the hidden message behind the Hokage's words and nodded. He asked Naruto to sit on the bed, which the boy complied. "So Naruto-kun, tell me everything that happened and don't leave anything out, no matter how small." So the boy did, since he trusted the both of them with his life. After the story, Kaido asked Naruto to take off his shirt and pants, leaving him only in his boxers, and required him to lie down on the bed. He carefully noted the drastic change in his patient's physique and marveled at how improved Naruto's body was. He made a few seals before his hands is covered with green energy before proceeding to hover it over Naruto's body, taking a bit longer and scanning his stomach in the process. He frowned a bit before doing it all over again. After 20 minutes, he asked Naruto to get dressed before sitting down behind his desk while scribbling a few notes on a piece of paper which he later attached to a clipboard. "So Kaido, is there anything wrong with our ward here?" asked the Hokage while messing Naruto's hair a bit and giving a smile while the boy pouted for being treated like a kid. Nothing is wrong with Naruto-kun, Hokage-sama. In fact, the boy is healthy, very healthy indeed." Kaido answered while putting the tip of his pen into his mouth, deep in thought. "So there is nothing bad regarding the changes?" asked the Hokage, again adding a hidden emphasis to bad to make sure that the right message is carried across. "No, in fact, while I was testing Naruto, it seemed that he awakened an unknown Kekkai Genkai that I know nothing of," the doctor informed the village leader with an excited gleam in his eyes. This stunned the Hokage. Naruto has a Kekkai Genkai? He knew both the boy's parents since they were kids, and both didn't exhibit any bloodline with the symptoms that Naruto displayed. Well, except the mother, but that is mostly related to the beast. This was all confusing. "Explain," the Hokage demanded. He needed more information if he needed to protect the boy, and he knew that the council will be on the boy's throat if they hear about this. From the diagnostics I performed on Naruto, it seems that his body changed according to a DNA strand that I picked up during my testing. Note that this was not present during last month's checkup. It seemed that the fever was the result of the bloodline going active in his system and used the comatose state to improve the boy's overall physique, explained the doctor. "Are these all the changes involved with the bloodline?" asked the Hokage with a frown on his face. Naruto just continued to listen to the conversation even if some of the terms were alien to him. He just stayed quiet as he was taught to do by the good doctor when the grown-ups are talking. No. It changed everything in his biology. It seems that his bloodline also improved his senses, making him superior to the Inuzuka clan in regards to their dog-like abilities. Also, the bloodline also gave him a significant boost in muscle mass and bone density, so that explains that strength and speed. Another interesting fact to note is his already impressive regeneration. We all know for a fact that he can heal wounds quickly, almost like a bloodline. However, the sudden change also increased his regenerative prowess as well, so any wounds he received will heal in a matter of seconds now. Not to mention that his antibodies are working overtime to counteract any forms of poison or diseases that make its way into his system. The doctor paused for a bit, gathering his thoughts before continuing. The hyperactivity of this antibodies is what's causing the temperature, even if the reading itself would mean that the boy should be dead right now. In conclusion, by all intent and purposes, the boy is unkillable except for the most mortal wounds or decapitation. I am also excited to note that his new DNA sequence made him similar to that of a wolf-human hybrid, if that is all possible. Oh, one downside is his metabolism. All these changes require an increased amount of food intake, so that explains why he almost cleaned out Ichiraku earlier, explained the doctor, excitement increasing as he proceeded to mention the abilities the boy seems to possess. The Hokage choked at the information. This made Naruto one of the most powerful human in Konoha. If he was properly trained, then he would be a great addition to the shinobi force in the future. Heck, these abilities would even make him the most powerful Hokage if he achieved his dreams of becoming one. He also looked like he swallowed a lemon when the doctor mentioned the last part. A wolf? Are you sure it's a wolf? It isn't. The Hokage trailed off, knowing that the doctor understood his reference to the Kyuubi inside the boy. No. Definitely a wolf. I should know. I studied different animals before, since my thesis involves advancing medical technique using animals as a basis. It is definitely that of a wolf. The doctor confirmed the discovery with determination, as if daring the Hokage to disagree with him. Naruto listened to the two adults with a keen ear. He didn't recognize the heavy words they used, but he wasn't stupid. He got the gist of their conversation. He has a cool bloodline. Also, the amount of food he ate earlier at Ichiraku was indeed a result of his changes. He almost choked at how battered and empty his Gamachan would be starting from today. He needs to either earn money for food or he will be learning to hunt. The latter made him sweat, since he didn't even know how to hunt in the first place. However, he wanted to ask about the wolf part as well, so he voiced out his concern. Kaido Gigi. You said I'm a wolf? Asked an overexcited boy, his mind already conjuring up images of him with wolf ears, tails, claws, and fangs. Kaido smiled at the boy's innocent nature. No, Naruto-kun. You're not a wolf, but from what I discovered, your body is similar to that of a wolf. Your sense of hearing, smell, and taste, as well as your strength, speed, and reflex is uncannily similar to that of a wild wolf. The Hokage interrupted the two. So what does this all mean? It means that Naruto-kun here is the sole holder of an unknown body-based bloodline that resembled that of a wolf. But it seems that there is more to this bloodline, so I require additional tests. Are you both in a hurry? Asked the doctor calmly, but the excitement lacing his voice betrayed the innocence of the question, as if daring them to deny him this discovery under the promise of pain. This made the Hokage gulp and hurriedly decided to answer the fanatical doctor. No, we are free for today, so you can proceed with your tests. I want to make sure that Naruto-kun here is without any problems, answered the Hokage with a smile. Indeed, it was a powerful bloodline, but he doesn't want his surrogate grandson to suffer in the future because he was playing Hokage in this role instead of a grandfather. Kaido nodded and gestured for Naruto to stand up. Now, Naruto. We have already determined that you have an unknown body-based bloodline. Do you have any questions so far? Seeing the boy shrug in negative. Good. Now I want you to channel your chakra, as much as you can without straining yourself. You already know how to channel your chakra, right? Sure, Kaido-ji-san. Irika-sensei already taught us that in the academy a few months back, answered Naruto. Perfect. Then please proceed, instructed a pleased Kaido, since he didn't need to teach the boy anything just to satisfy his medical curiosity. Naruto nodded and did a ram seal and released his hold on his chakra. The result staggered both the Hokage and the doctor. Upon previous checkup, they already knew that Naruto already have Jonin-level chakra reserves, but now, he is easily up there with the Kages. They were both flabbergasted at what they were seeing. The chakra Naruto was releasing was so powerful that it created a light blue aura around him. Kaido immediately gestured for Naruto to stop to avoid damaging the building with the amount of wild chakra the blonde was releasing. Amazing! Last month's checkup easily put him in Jounin chakra levels. But now, he is easily on Hokage levels and he is still developing. This is astounding. It seems whatever changed his physical makeup also boosted his chakra reserves as well. Simply amazing, exclaimed an excited doctor as he jotted down the results on his clipboard. Naruto frowned after pulling the chakra back to his body. He decided to voice out his concerns. Hokage Gigi, Kaido-ji-san, something happened while I was channeling my chakra. Really, Naruto-kun? I didn't see anything wrong, said Kaido as he continued to scribble on his clipboard, not bothering to look at Naruto. When you asked me to channel my chakra, I see you all a lot better. The colors were brighter and I can see all of you clearly, even that small mark on your right eyebrow. My vision is back to normal though, said Naruto apprehensively, thinking that he might have something wrong with his recent change. Kaido's eyebrows rose quickly at the information. To see the pinprick mark hidden behind his eyebrows was astounding. He got it while he was still a field medic when he was pecked by one of the birds he was studying and no one knew about it, except now. Well, it seems that your bloodline is definitely body-based and a jujitsu as well. It seems that an application of chakra to your eyes also improves your vision as well. Curious, very curious, muttered Kaido while taking a few notes in Naruto's medical file. What's a jujitsu? Asked the curious Naruto. He didn't know the term, but he knew instinctively that it was of significance. The Hokage chose to answer this query from the blonde boy. A jujitsu, Naruto-kun, is an eye-based technique that displays specific characteristics and results. Are you with me so far? Naruto nodded, so he continued. Most jujitsus requires chakra to activate and yours seems to be one of them, and it seems to be part of your bloodline. To give you an example, the Hyuga clan has a jujitsu called the Byakugan. This allows them to have a 360-degree vision, allowing them to see almost everywhere at once, even through walls. Another example is the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. Upon hearing the explanation, Naruto jumped out of his chair and bounced around the room in excitement. Woohoo! I have a cool jujitsu. I have a cool bloodline. Woohoo! The two adults looked at the bouncing kid in amusement and were heartened that the kid didn't lose his smile even after the years of suffering under the idiot villager's actions. The Hokage decided to curb the boy's excitement to get to the important part. Sit down, Naruto-kun. We need to talk about this later. There are some important things you need to know concerning your bloodline. The tone that the Hokage used to address the blonde curbed the boy's excitement and nodded before proceeding to sit on a chair, but continued to fidget in excitement. Again, the Hokage couldn't help but smile and ruffled the child's hair again for good measure. He looked at the smiling Kaido. So is there anything else we need to know about Kaido? I think that's the gist of it. There might be more changes and abilities popping out soon since he just manifested the change, so it is best to let Naruto-kun come to me with a weekly checkup to make sure everything is all right. I would also suggest for the boy to have a teacher to help him control his abilities since it would be dangerous, especially his strength. Other than that, Naruto-kun is a healthy 8-year-old boy. The Hokage nodded. Good. Thank you for your time, Kaido, and make sure that you keep the result of today's discovery under wraps. From now on, Naruto's bloodline will be an S-rank secret that is only for 3 of us to know unless Naruto or I chose to divulge it otherwise. Understood? Kaido nodded, closed the folder with Naruto's bloodline results, and proceeded to lock it inside his blood-sealed scroll. The Hokage saw this and gave him a nod of approval before grasping Naruto again on the shoulder and exited the room to his office in the Hokage Tower via Shunshin, leaving a smiling doctor at his wake thinking of this new development regarding his favorite blonde. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the closed door where an excited Naruto left a couple of minutes earlier after having a brief discussion with the boy. After they left the hospital, he and Naruto had a little discussion regarding the importance of secrecy concerning his newly awakened bloodline and told the boy in no specific terms should he tell anyone about it. He was glad when Naruto nodded in understanding before leaving the aged man to his contemplation of the day's events after promising that he will keep everything secret unless his Hokage Jiji told him to. The aged Hokage stood up and walked towards the window facing the Hokage monument and started to think. With Naruto's new abilities, his current outlook needs to be seriously changed if he wanted to protect the boy. When Naruto left, the Hokage instructed one of his ANBU guards to go to Kaido to fetch Naruto's medical records. He perused everything that Kaido wrote and was aghast as to how much torture and torment his surrogate grandson suffered at the hands of the villagers. If he wants to protect the boy, then he needs to do a lot of house cleaning, and there are quite a lot of pests eradicated if he wanted his plans to be put in motion. First, he needed to recall his two wayward students for different reasons. Jiraiya. The Toad Sannin needs to return for further instructions, more specifically, adding Konoha to his information network. Sure, the Toad Sage was able to give him valuable information outside of the leaf. But with Naruto's newly awakened bloodline, he needs inside information as well. He should have thought of this sooner, but his rush-out handling after the fourth died was below standards to what his teachers, the Shodame and Naidame, started in the leaf. This would need to be corrected, and recalling the pervert is the first step for his plan to work. Next is Tsunade. He understood the heartache that Konoha gave the slug Sannin, losing both his little brother and his lover to the wars that Konoha participated in, but what he saw in the hospital sickened him. It seems that the Hippocratic Oath that the current hospital workforces are only enforced on those they deemed normal and does not include those that really needed them, mainly Naruto. It is definitely time to put Tsunade's idea for an overhaul and the running of the hospital to be put in force, and only his students' powerful drive can see to that. The Konoha Council needs to be overhauled as well. For Kami's sake, he ignored it for years now and just left it alone. He knew that the council, specifically the civilian side, wrestled a lot of power from him when the fourth died, and he, in his infinite wisdom, ignored it. He almost banged his head on the table when he realized that almost all the problems he had in the village was all his doing. Maybe banging his head on the table was a good idea as punishment aside from the years of headache he was forced to go through. His major problem, however, lies with his teammate, Danzo. Oh, he knew about the root program that the half-blind shinobi operated underneath his radar despite his orders of disbandment of the organization. He just didn't want to cause more problems, so he just ignored it. He needed to rein in Danzo if he wanted to protect Naruto. He shivered at the possibility of Danzo finding out about Naruto's bloodline. If he found out, Naruto would be abducted, experimented, placed on a hidden breeding program, or worse, turned into a mindless drone under his command. This should not happen. The Sandaime Hokage worked into the night, penning letters and starting the plans to wrest the control of the village back in his iron grip and protect his surrogate grandson. This should have been done years ago. He will make sure this is done now or die trying. A lot of civilians and shinobi in Konoha felt a cold shiver down their spines that night. All of them didn't know that the god of shinobi has finally gotten his backbone because of a whiskered blonde boy. Nursing his half-empty sake bottle, Tsunade, the slug Sannin, legendary healer of the leaf, newly minted legendary sucker due to her ability to lose any bets, was suddenly knocked out of her reverie when a sudden poof of smoke materialized beside her, revealing a messenger monkey. Tsunade-sama. I bear a missive from Hiruzen-sama of great importance. The messenger monkey informed her in a monotone voice. Tsunade stared at the messenger in shock. If her teachers sent a message via summons, then this is definitely important. She never received a message via summons after 8 years of being away from the village, and receiving one now brought a cold shiver down her spine. Not trusting her voice, she nodded to the monkey, who passed on a scroll to her before disappearing back into the summon realm. Deciding to read this in the confines of her hotel room, she immediately left after paying the bartender for her drinks. When she got to the hotel room, she saw that her assistant, Shizune, was in the bathroom taking a shower, so she immediately gathered her chakra and went through the seals for a privacy jutsu to make sure that she was uninterrupted with the message. Fishing the scroll out of her trench coat pocket, she saw that it was protected by a blood and chakra seal. This was serious indeed. She broke the seal easily since it was key to her signature, then proceeded to read what her sensei wanted. Tsunade. My student, hope this letter finds you well. It has been too long since we have last seen or contacted each other, but certain events have come to light that I require you immediately in my presence here in Konaha. I would have loved to just exchange banter with you here in a letter considering what the leaf took from you, but this is important and I will not take no for an answer. I have come to realize that the leaf is no longer what it should be when your grandfather created it a long time ago. I have myself to blame, and it is time to make sure that everything is corrected to avoid further sufferings in the future. Your skills and prowess is needed, my dear student, and it is time for Senju to return to the village and take a hand in this matter, for only with your power can I put these changes to fruition. The same missive have also been sent to Jiraiya for a different purpose, but both of you are necessary for everything that I have planned for the leaf. You are to rendezvous with him at Otafukugai in 2 days' time, and both of you immediately head back to the leaf ASAP. Your teacher and Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sandaime Hokage. Tsunade was flabbergasted as she finished the letter and could never deny that this is no ordinary missive. Never have her teacher been this serious before, and the tone at which he drafted the letter was more than serious. This was epic. With a glint in her eyes, she burned the letter with a katan jutsu and made ready to leave in the shortest possible time. Shizune. Get your butt out of that bathroom right now, hollered Tsunade while sealing their things inside a scroll for easy transport. Shizune got out of the shower in record-breaking time and saw that her mentor was packing things into a scroll at unbelievable speed. What's the problem, Tsunade-sama? Tsunade rounded on Shizune, who was driven back by the intensity in her mentor's eyes. We are leaving for the leaf. We are meeting Jiraiya in Otafukugai in 2 days' time, so get your butt in gear and let's get moving. The slug Sanine said in a voice that brooked no nonsense or arguments. Shizune immediately started to work, not wanting the wrath of her teacher rain down on her just because she wanted to slow down and take her time. She knew that Tsunade vowed never to return to the village, but seeing her wanting to go back ASAP means that something is afoot. Jiraiya was currently giggling as he peeped on the women's section of the hot springs in Otafukugai. The impromptu make-out session inside the bath brought a nosebleed out of the pervert as he hurriedly scribbled on his notepad for his newest Ika Paradise book. This is big, very, very big, judging from the inspiration he is getting from the impromptu show on the other side of the fence. He was brought out of his perverted giggling when a poof of smoke appeared beside him, revealing a messenger monkey from the Hokage. Realizing that the Sandaime have never used his summons for correspondence, immediately alerted the pervert that this is serious. Jiraiya-sama. I have a message here for you from Sarutobi-sama. I already delivered the same message to Tsunade-sama before I came to you, said the monkey as he handed the scroll to the toad Sanine and promptly returned to the summon realm when the white-haired man took it. Recognizing the security seal on the scroll, he pricked his thumb with his teeth to break the skin and applied blood on the seal and channeled a little bit of his chakra to it. The seal disappeared in a poof of smoke, allowing him to open the scroll. He read, Jiraiya. I require your presence here in Konaha in the shortest possible time. You are to drop your research ASAP and meet with Tsunade in Otafukugai in 2 days' time. Changes are to be made in the leaf, and I require both of your presence in the soonest possible time. I know that you are currently peeping, so drop it and head over to the rendezvous point to meet with Tsunade. I don't care if the next issue of Ika Paradise is delayed. Get your butt here pronto. Your Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sandaime Hokage. Jiraiya's eyebrows rose to his hairline as he read the missive. Never have his mentor told him to drop his research, considering that he is one of his biggest fan. This is serious if his mentor demanded him to stop everything in favor of coming to the leaf instead of the next installment of his smut. He immediately burned the scroll and exited the hot springs. Gathering chakra and a minuscule amount of natural energy for extra speed, he ran towards Otafukugai in a speed that would make Madogai look like a toddler. He has a slug princess to meet, and this has nothing to do with her jiggling assets. A loud boom and a small earthquake alerted the gatekeepers of Konaha into action. They were expecting an attack, but what they saw almost made them piss their pants. Two of the legendary Sanins are back riding on top of the famed Gamabunta, the toad boss. Both jumped off from the head of the summons before it poofed away back into the summon realm. They both impacted the ground in front of the startled guards and left a small crater under their feet. Shizune went unnoticed considering the important people she was with, which suited her just fine. Tsunade-sama, Jiraiya-sama. Welcome back to Konoha, one of the Chunin guards stammered his greeting. It's good to be back. Now if you'll excuse us, we are to see the Hokage immediately, grunted Tsunade in annoyance. And with that, both the Toad and Slug Sannin left an awed and stammering guard towards the Hokage Tower without a by your leave. Jiraiya and Tsunade entered the Hokage's office and saw their teacher amidst a pile of paperwork with a frown on his face. Hiruzen saw both his students enter the room and decided to go immediately into business. Close the door and place your strongest privacy seals, Jiraiya, he demanded in a serious, businesslike tone. Startled by the seriousness of his mentor's command, he immediately pulled out his patented privacy seal from his pocket and slapped it on the walls, then going through hand seals to activate it. When he released his chakra, the room immediately glowed a bright blue before dying down, signifying that the privacy barrier is up and running. Good, now both of you sit down. There are a lot of things that needs to be done, and we don't have enough time to do it, said Sarutobi while beckoning them to sit in front of him. He immediately took out 4 folders from his drawer and passed 2 of them towards his students, 1 each. Read it. I'll give you the other set when you're done. Jiraiya and Tsunade nodded and opened the folder. Both of them paled at what they were reading. Seeing his students' reaction, he immediately passed them the other set, beckoning them to read it as well. This time, the reaction was of awe, disbelief, and most importantly, shock. So, tell me, were you able to understand the importance of what you are reading? Asked the Sandame. Both nodded, but it was Jiraiya who voiced out his thoughts first. How did this happen? The Toad Sannin demanded. Which one? The beatings or the bloodline? Asked the Hokage with a grim look on his face. The beatings. What have you been doing, Sensei? We both promised Minato that we would look after the kid. He traded his life for the village and only for them to stab him in the back using his son as a punching bag and a torture doll, shouted Jiraiya in a voice filled with rage. Crack. Both Jiraiya and the Hokage looked at the third occupant of the room, prompted by the sudden sound of wood cracking under pressure. They weren't disappointed. Tsunade was holding on one of the arms of her chair with enough force that it cracked the wood into pulp. Her face betrayed her rage, her eyes on fire and gritting her teeth in fury. Both male in the room saw this before, and the result was not pretty. Still gritting her teeth and holding onto the broken arms of her chair as if it was a lifeline to her sanity. You better have an explanation for this, Sensei, or else. The last came out as a growl. She couldn't believe the experience Kushina's son went through at the hand of the village that her grandfather created, the village that Minato died to save. This was unforgivable. Instead of answering, Sarutobi leveled both his students with a glare that instantly destroyed their rage easily. The one in front of them wasn't the mild-mannered shinobi of the leaf that taught them to become the best years ago. No. This was the god of shinobi that was said to be the most powerful shinobi in all the elemental countries. You dare put all the blame on me, raged Sarutobi. Don't you dare blame this on me. We are all to blame for this. He rounded Jiraiya. You are Minato's sensei. You were there when both he and Kushina were wed. You were there when they announced to us that they were expecting a child. Where were you to look after him? Peeping? Researching? Playing around? He then glared at Tsunade, who flinched at the accusation in his eyes. And you? Don't blame me since you left the village and vowed never to return. You as a Medicnine should know what is needed for a child of your friends. So answer me, both of you. Am I the only one to blame? raged Sarutobi, flooding the room with his killing intent that almost smothered both of his students to a coma. It took everyone quite a while to calm down. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade were filled with remorse over their actions. What their sensei said was true. They weren't around to look after the boy. They both left without even thinking what could possibly happen to the resident Jinchuriki, since they both knew how the other villages treated the vessels. No, they are to blame as well as their sensei. Sarutobi tried his best to calm down, and when he did, he took a deep breath before addressing both his students. Instead of pointing fingers on who to blame for the boy's maltreatment, what we should be doing right now is to think of a way to rectify the situation. I already drafted a plan for the changes we need to do in order to protect Naruto, and the only way to do this is to change the leaf from the ground up. So are you both with me? Seeing both of them nod, as well as seeing the will of fire burning in their eyes once again, Sarutobi allowed himself to release a satisfied smirk before continuing. Good. I have already made a plan on how to change the problems in the village, but both of you have your own specific tasks to make sure that everything falls into place. Starting today, both of you are unofficially my advisors. I will be replacing both Koharu and Hamura since both of them are part of the problem. I will be informing them of both your positions when I call the council into a meeting. Seeing the mischievous smirks adorning his students' faces, he continued. Now Tsunade, I want you to take charge of the hospital. You will be rebuilding everything from the ground up. I already have your mission parameters for this, so you will know what to do when you get there. I also give you full permission to enact your own plan for a medic mean in each squad and give you liberty to choose your students among the aspiring genins in the academy. Tsunade perked up at this declaration. Her dream of reducing casualties during missions by integrating a medic mean in teams is finally going to come true. It will take years before results will be seen in the field, but if she starts now, then future missions would yield better results and casualties will drop. She rubbed her hand in anticipation. Oh, she is going to love this mission. Her evil smirk didn't go unobserved by the two males in the room, and both shivered at the implication of that smirk. Now Jiraiya. You already have your spy network outside the village, and it is quite understandable that you have to leave to monitor them all. However, I have another plan that I want you to follow. You will set up your network to make sure that all information will be passed to your position here in the village without requiring you to leave. The reason? Simple, you will be creating a thorough spy network here in the Leaf, and I want you to ferret out every single secrets and anomalies here in the village. I want them all here on my desk so we can start persecuting those that needs to be dealt with. Understood? Jiraiya understood the magnitude of the mission. Sure, he would need to cut down on his research time if he needs to set up a spy network here in the Leaf, and the lack of research material that only exists outside the village is beyond his reach at the moment. However, he will sacrifice all this for the sake of Naruto. He has years of paying for the neglect he suffered in the hands of the villagers, and he is so going to start paying for it now with this mission. It's better to be late than never. The aged Hokage saw the compliance in both Jiraiya and Tsunade, so he passed them another set of folders with his plans regarding the mission he assigned to them, with free rein to add anything he might have missed. Both accepted the folders with glee written on their faces. Next on the agenda is the entire village itself, mainly the council and Danzo. Here is a draft of my plans. Please read it and tell me what you think. He then passed them both some documents regarding his future plans for the Leaf. After a few minutes of reading, both Sanins have evil smirk on their faces that sent ghostly shivers down the concerned body's spine. This is going to be a long year for those in the Leaf. Time skip, 1 week later. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat behind his desk lounging around thinking about some of the changes that has been made after a week of his students' arrival. Tsunade and Shizune took a day to relax and plan for their pest control project in the Konaha hospital before really rocking the foundation down. The slug Sannin stormed the hospital the next day and reviewed every single report with the help of Shizune. It seems that a lot of issues were swept under the rug, some concerning the funding that should have gone to the development of the hospital but was instead diverted to persons unknown. Most of the reports, however, were about Naruto, and she didn't like what she saw, which resulted in one of the walls on the first floor to disappear due to her temper. It was the only time in Konoha history that the hospital was empty of all personnel, since all of them vacated the premises when the slug Sannin demonstrated her displeasure, using her fist. The next day, a lot of hospital personnel were fired on the spot except for a few who remained faithful to the oath they took when they set to work as medic Nin. She took the mantle of director with Shizune as her assistant, who will be handling the interviews for the hopefuls. She immediately formed a council of trusted doctors to oversee the various areas on the hospital that should have been done a long time ago. Kaido, Naruto's personal doctor, was given the head position of his pseudo-council of medic Nins that alleviated some of Tsunade's tasks. She also designated separate departments in the hospital for different purposes, like a research and development department for the improvement of Konoha's medical studies and application, an entire department devoted to potion research and antidotes, and so on. She had trouble with the funding at first, but the Sandaime opened up the village coffers for her use since it will soon be refilled after the planned audit. She also started a draft of lessons to be included in the Shinobi Academy to slowly integrate the idea of medic Nins for future genins. This would require her and the Hokage to meet with the current director of the academy to properly implement the changes. It was slow work, but it was progress all the same. Jiraiya wasn't also slacking off in terms of setting up his spy network outside the village. He utilized his toad summons as a means to relay messages to him back to Konoha to make sure that he didn't miss anything. Only important messages were required for him to leave the village, but so far none of the reports require him to take such action, so he remained at the home front to continue his spy network. The secrets he were able to ferret out in the village in only a few days since he started was enough to take his mind off his research. That was how dirty Konoha has become, and the Toad Sage was literally rolling in mud. With only a week of the Leaf Spy Network under Jiraiya's command, some anomalies have been brought to the Hokage, namely Danzo's root program, which was set as a priority by Sarutobi. With an ingenious application of Toad Recon summons in different parts of Konoha, he discovered hidden locations of various root headquarters, their position in the village, various missions outside the village, and Danzo's connection with the Civilian Council. All of these reports were currently on Sarutobi's desk, which he just finished reading and waiting for Danzo to answer his summons. Danzo was currently walking along the halls of the Hokage Tower towards the Hokage's office where he was summoned. It was early in the morning that one of the Hokage's personal ANBU dropped by in his home and promptly announced that his presence was required ASAP. A cold shiver ran down his spine, and a tightening in his gut told him that this meeting would not be pleasant for him. When he reached the door, he immediately straightened and was about to open the door without bothering to knock as a slight to the person on the other side of the door when the Hokage's voice almost made him trip. "Glad of you to answer my summons, Danzo. Please come in." The voice of Sarutobi came from the other side of the door. Danzo sniffed and proceeded to open the door and was about to berate his ex-teammate, but stopped when he saw the Hokage's face. The tightening in his gut that he experienced earlier came back in full force upon seeing the expression on Sarutobi. It was the face that he only saw during wartime. It was the face of the professor, the god of shinobi, the Sandaime Hokage of the strongest hidden village in the elemental nations. Sarutobi smirked when he saw the apprehension in Danzo's eyes. "Good. Time for the next phase of the plan. Please sit down, Danzo. We have much to discuss." The aged Hokage almost crooned, which made the old warhawk sweat a bit. Danzo sat down in front of the Hokage and mustered every bit of courage he had in his system and glared at the other person. "What do you want, Sarutobi? Why have you summoned me this early in the morning? This is—" He was interrupted when the sudden flood of killing intent filled the room coming from the Hokage. The cold fury in the aged leader's eyes spoke volumes and will mean a lot of pain later if he didn't shut up right this minute. He gulped. "I think we need to make some facts clear, Danzo-san, since it seems that you need re-educating in terms of village protocol. Let me ask you a question and I want you to answer me. Understood? Good. Now first question, who is the Hokage of this village? The aged Hokage asked in a deceptively calm voice, penetrating eyes never leaving his prey. Danzo, fortunately, held back a biting retort before answering. You. Good. Then how come you are questioning my orders about summoning you? You live in this village. You have a position in this village. You are a shinobi of this village. So that means that you are under me, Danzo. Now please tell me, are you supposed to question me when I summon you to my office? Asked the Hokage in a deathly calm voice. Quailed by the coldness in the Hokage's question, he swallowed his pride and decided to play it safe. No, Hokage-sama. I apologize for my rudeness. Sarutobi gave Danzo a calm and calculating gaze. Good. It seems that you learned your lesson well, Danzo. Now, tell me, how is your root program coming along? He asked in a calm and conversational voice to make sure that his opponent is caught off guard. You already know that the root program was disbanded, Hokage-sama. So why are you asking me this pointless question? Grated Danzo, who was already sweating on the inside and thinking of ways to get out of the situation. Sarutobi didn't give him that option to escape. Oh, really? Then these documents I have before me are false, asked the aged Hokage as he waved at the folder in front of him. He opened the folder and proceeded to read what's in it. Let me see. According to this document, we have a total of 25,000 residents in Konaha, both civilian and shinobi. Is that correct, Danzo? Yes, Hokage-sama. That information can easily be accessed through the Konaha archive and in the shinobi library. Danzo answered promptly, not realizing the trap in such a harmless question of numbers. Good. Very good, Danzo. I know that they are open to the public, but there is more. Let me see. Yes, it says here that there are a total of 15,000 civilians in the Leaf plus a total of 7,000 registered shinobis, both retired, in reserve, and in active duty. Now tell me, Danzo, where is the 3,000 that was unaccounted for? Danzo was sweating at this point since the remaining numbers coincided with the number of shinobis he currently have in his underground root program. He was about to defend himself when the Hokage beat him to it. You know what I think, Danzo-san? I think that these remaining unaccounted numbers are under your program. Deciding to go with the innocent card, Danzo rebuffed the Hokage's claims. I don't know what you mean, Hokage-sama. I have no idea why there are 3,000 unaccounted numbers in Konoha. Sarutobi smirked. Oh, he got him now. Time to add the icing to the cake. He pulled out a piece of paper from the folder and read on for the benefit of his sweating opponent. Is that so, Danzo? So does this mean that the people training under Sector 2, 10, 13, 14, and 42 aren't part of your root program? You mean that there is another organization in the Leaf that I didn't know about that has a seal on their tongue and with the kanji of root on their masks? Are you sure, Danzo? Danzo was sweating now. How in the world did Sarutobi know about his hidden training grounds and bases? This is impossible. They were all well hidden. Paper trail was non-existent and all information regarding his activities was underground. The seal on his root shinobis was foolproof and he was sure that none of them tattled on him. How? He was about to say something, but Sarutobi just raised his hand indicating for him to keep silent and leveled him a glare that could easily freeze a bijou in its tracks. Listen to me, Danzo. I know all about your root program and how you disregarded my order of disbanding them. I should have you killed for treason and let all your root shinobis tortured for information after the seal is removed from their tongues. He paused to add to Danzo's unease. Oh, which reminds me, I already have the counter seal to it, so they will surely squeal everything when Ibiki and Anko plays with them. Danzo slumped in his chair. Everything is now out in the open, and nothing he could say will protect him from his death. He gave the smirking Sarutobi a tired look. What do you want, Sarutobi? Inwardly, the Hokage pumped his mental hands in triumph and proceeded to the next phase of the plan. Don't worry, Danzo. You won't be executed for treason. Oh no. I still have use for you, old friend, he said in a sickly sweet voice that promised a lot of pain if he refused. Seeing no disagreement from Danzo, Sarutobi continued. I want you to officially reactivate the root program. Danzo's face perked up when he heard this, but slumped down again when he heard the next part. Under my command. Starting today, I will take control of your root with you as its director. It will be a shadow branch of Konoha military that will operate under guise. You will submit to me every single document, secrets, and plots you have under your program, which I will peruse at a later time. Let me remind you, Danzo, that I know all of your moves, and one wrong move means a day of torture at the hands of my trusted interrogators. Understood? Seeing Danzo nod. What else could he do but agree? Good. You may leave. I expect everything here on my desk in 2 days. It should be enough time for you to relay the new order of things to my new subordinates. Do this or else. He added the last part with a burst of pure killer intent that made Danzo sweat. With that, he dismissed the defeated Danzo while proceeding with the next phase of his plan. Taking a breather from her thorough rehabilitation of the hospital, Tsunade took a small gulp of the fiery drink while reading through the medical files of one Uzumaki Naruto just to make sure that she got all the facts right. The initial test done by Kaido regarding the child's potential was good, but not good enough by her standards. Sure, he got the basics done in terms of physical and mental tests, but the finer points were left alone either because he didn't know how to proceed with such discovery or he was afraid that taking a deeper plunge into the child's body would result in a negative reaction. Tsunade scoffed as the thoughts appeared on her mind. Kaido might be afraid to dig deeper, but not her. No, she was the legendary medic of Konoha, and she knew quite a lot of methods to loosening the secrets in one's body that other doctors in the elemental nations could only dream of. She was brought out of her musings by a knock on her door. Come in. The door opened to reveal one Dr. Kaido, Naruto's personal medic mean as assigned by the Hokage. Not the best of the best, but due to the mindset of the previous workforce, he was the only one her teacher could get to take care of the boy. Tsunade-sama. You have summoned me, said Kaido with a bow of respect. Yes, Kaido-san. Please sit. We have much to discuss. I hope that your new position in the hospital wasn't too troublesome for you, inquired Tsunade as she beckoned for the good doctor to take a seat in front of her desk. Kaido brightened immediately upon hearing his new position. No, Tsunade-sama. The position was a godsend. Being able to take a hand in the changes necessary for the hospital is a dream come true for me. So, no. I love my new position and love the changes you planned for the future of Konoha Medical. Tsunade nodded. Her respect for the man rose up a peg or two for that comment. However, now is not the time for platitudes and useless compliments. It's time to discuss the recent discovery in medical history. Good. Now, I summoned you here regarding one of your patients. One Uzumaki Naruto. I dare say, seeing the results firsthand were quite an experience. Tsunade queried. Of course, Tsunade-sama. That boy is a gold mine of medical information. The way his body was improved and enhanced on a genetic level would greatly affect the world's medical history if such study is undergone. But doing so right now at this pace would endanger the boy. Besides, it is still too early to enact such a study since the boy's bloodline is clearly in the developing stages, explained Kaido with excitement. You're correct. The brat is displaying a medical miracle if truth be told, but that is not the reason why I called you here. She placed a paper in front of the good doctor, one of the detailed notes that he compiled after the checkup. You theorized that Naruto is evolving to that of a wolf as stated in the DNA readouts you managed to extract from your diagnostics. I want to hear your theories since I haven't had time to check the boy myself. Kaido released a disappointed grunt and paused for a bit, gathering his thoughts. It is not as if the boy will be changing into a wolf, Tsunade-sama. But my theory is more pronounced when it comes to the boy's changes. From the looks of it, the DNA strand that I got yielded 2 results instead of the usual one. Tsunade looked at the doctor as if he just sprouted another head. 2 strands? Don't be ridiculous, Kaido. It is impossible for a single human to have two strands of DNA. Kaido shook his head. If you read my notes, Tsunade-sama, there are two strands of DNA on Naruto's biology. However, these two are separate and it seems to be connected by some form of thread. From what I surmise, the wolf DNA requires activation, but the stimulus for such activation remains unknown. Now Tsunade was intrigued of the concept, a change that requires activation? Now that is something to look forward to. Your theory seems plausible and its working is similar to that of many bloodlines we know of that requires a physical change. Could it be a mental trigger since chakra doesn't seem to initiate the change? I doubt it, Tsunade-sama. But I would surmise that it is both emotional and mental for such a change to occur. If I am correct, a mental stimulus is necessary to jumpstart his emotional trigger, thus activating the semi-dormant gene. Without further tests, we can never finalize the theory. Kaido mused. We also need to dig deeper into this gene so we can determine its exact ability or changes on the boy if there is one. I would also suggest we look into his genealogy since it is quite possible that his parents might also have similar strain. Are you familiar with his family, Tsunade-sama? Tsunade nodded. Yes, I am very much familiar with his parents. They come to me for the checkups and healing, so I can safely say that both of them didn't show any bloodline to what their child is currently undergoing. A thoughtful frown marred Kaido's face. If that is the case, then the gene to trigger the activated of the bloodline might be dormant in their case. A distant ancestor might yield more positive results, but it would be safe to say that it is impossible right now since Naruto-kun is the last of his family. It would be safe to treat this as a new bloodline and document it from there for future use. Tsunade became quiet after the revelation. The good doctor's theories were sound, or if possible, accurate to a point. However, they would all remain as such if they don't have enough facts to prove such a point and requires a thorough test to acquire them. The legendary medic already reviewed the records she had of Naruto's parents, and it would be safe to say that both didn't display the bloodline that Naruto is showing right now. Among the two, only Naruto's mother has an active bloodline. It was too bad that she didn't subject both to a gene test to check since it wasn't required at that time and there was no need to do so. Deciding to set this matter aside for now, she will wait for Naruto's visit to the hospital since there are still plenty of things for her to do, and going into this project will surely take a lot of her time in both studies and experimentation. I suggest we drop this project for now, Kaido. According to the notes you made on your findings, you are planning to let Naruto undergo more thorough tests when he comes over next month for a checkup. Is that correct? Kaido nodded in affirmative. Please inform me before proceeding so I can conduct my own tests as well to collaborate the results. It is quite possible that both of us to discover something new that the both of us alone could have missed. Understood, commanded Tsunade in a voice that brooked no opposition. Crystal, Tsunade-sama, agreed Kaido with a bow. Working on this new discovery was a dream come true for him, and he didn't plan to do anything that might compromise his position in this project. Tsunade nodded and beckoned for him to leave her while sealing Naruto's medical files back into her private scroll before tackling another document regarding the hospital's running. But not before taking a long swig from her trusty sake bottle. Hiruzen Sarutobi was currently sitting behind his desk, deep in thought, finalizing everything that needs to be done in today's council meeting that will shake the leaf to its foundation. This has been coming for quite a while now, but the information that he received from Jiraiya's spy network will make it easier for him to enact the change necessary to improve the leaf and protect his surrogate grandson. He was brought out of his musings when Tsunade and Jiraiya entered the office, both sporting faces of anticipation on what is about to happen in the meeting later. Thank you for coming, Jiraiya, Tsunade. I have called a council meeting in an hour for both civilian and shinobi councils. It is finally time for us to enact the plan we have discussed. Jiraiya grinned. I guess the information I passed on to you from my spy network pushed to change the schedule ahead of time then? The aged Hokage smiled. Yes, Jiraiya. Your spy network yielded the results I need. Their actions have already been brought to my attention before, but the lack of evidence delayed any form of action. He looked then at Tsunade, who was slouching on the couch with a sake bottle in hand. He sweat-dropped at the sight, but ignored the alcoholic beverage for now. "How about you, Tsunade? Any problems on your front?" Tsunade grunted and took another swallow of the fiery drink before addressing her sensei. "Problem? The hospital is like a ticking time bomb ready to blow up. You have perfect timing in calling me back and starting the change, or else we would be totally screwed." Sarutobi's face turned grim. "This he need to know. Explain, Tsunade, and don't leave anything out." The slug Sanin took another drink. "When I took over, the hospital isn't even running at 10% efficiency. Most of the doctors and nurses were not qualified to even practice, and how the head doctor hired them I have no clue. All reports indicate that treatments were done in a form of basic first aid. We were just lucky that no serious injuries were brought in, or we would be suffering from lack of shinobis. They are woefully inept. I fired all of them and tasked Shizune in screening everything on the applicants. And don't get me started on the funding. The allocations were diverted to imaginary people for developments that we don't even see. No paper trails. Millions of Ryo disappeared overnight for Kami knows where." She spat out the last part and took another long swig from her bottle. Jiraiya snorted. "So what else is new?" "Everything I uncovered in the leaf is either money transactions or secrets passed to other villages. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them come knocking on our front step due to the amount of information being released without our knowing." This time, rage lined the old face of the Hokage, and killer intent is slowly leaking out from him. "What? What information were you able to dig up, Jiraiya?" Jiraiya snorted and pulled out his ever-present research notepad, but instead of the usual smut, this one is filled to the brim with village information he managed to get from his budding spy network. "Let me see. Clan information including their abilities, numbers, and experience, current heirs of clans, names and physical description, shinobi assignments, and mission accomplishments, patrol information, just to name a few." Sarutobi took in a calming breath and massaged his aching temples. It was worse than he thought it would be. If this information gets out to the wrong hands, a specialist traitorous student, then the village wouldn't remain standing in a few years. This has got to stop, now. Dog. Upon his prompting, a silver-haired, dog-masked ANBU appeared before the Hokage, kneeling. "Yes, Hokage-sama? Are the squads in position and ready to enact the plan upon prompting?" "Yes, Hokage-sama. Squads 3, 6, and 8 are all in position in the council chambers waiting for your orders. All of them are briefed on their respective targets and await your signal." The dog-masked ANBU answered. "Good. Then proceed as planned. Are the civilian and shinobi council all present and accounted for?" "Yes, Hokage-sama. All of them have just arrived and are waiting for you to start the meeting." The Hokage nodded. "You are dismissed." With that, the ANBU stood from his position and melted back into the shadows without so much as a sound. Sarutobi Hiruzen stood up from his desk and beckoned for his students to follow, putting on their game faces to avoid betraying their intentions. Heads will roll today, and it wasn't theirs. The Konoha Council was divided into two factions, the Shinobi Council and the Civilian Council, both working in tandem for the betterment of the village. The Shinobi Council is made up of the Konoha clan heads, as well as the two advisors of the Hokage, Koharu and Hamura, ex-teammates of the Sandaime Hokage. The main clans include the Hyuga, Aburame, Akimichi, Nara, Uchiha, Yamanaka, and Inazuka. Minor clan heads were also present, but their numbers did not merit them any major position. The Uchiha representative was Danzo Shimura, since Uchiha Sasuke is still underage and the eldest, Uchiha Itachi, is a missing nin with a bounty on his head. The Civilian Council is made up of the wealthy merchants in Konoha, who mostly resided in the merchant district of the village. These individuals are considered as the wealthiest in their respective position, thus their position in the chamber. The Hokage, as well as the toad and slug Sanine, entered the chamber that resulted in the sudden silence of the gossiping crowd. All of them were called into this chamber an hour ago, and they have no idea what the aged leader wants to discuss. Sarutobi took his seat in front of the council, flanked by Tsunade and Jiraiya, acting as bodyguards, faces grim which practically intimidated everyone in the room. Questions erupted from the civilian council, demanding why they were called so suddenly without prior notice. The Hokage let them stew it out a bit for a few seconds before flooding the room with a powerful killer intent that silenced everyone immediately. The civilian council, who had no shinobi training, was running short of breath from the intense aura that covered the council chamber, while the shinobi council just gripped the tables and sweated a little. "Thank you for keeping the peace inside these hallowed halls," the Hokage snarled, sarcasm dripping from his words. "Now if all of you are done gossiping like fishmongers' wives, let's get down to business." One of the civilians, a fat man with a pompous air, decided to call the attention of the meeting. "What is the reason you called us here, Hokage-sama?" Sarutobi spared the man a glance. "Let me see Yamura-san. Who are you to tell me why I have summoned you?" The councilman bristled. "We are the civilian council. It is only right." He was cut off from further dribbles when a sword was pressed on his throat from an ANBU who materialized upon his disrespect of the Hokage. "Himura-san. I am the Hokage. This is MY Village. You are just a councilman, so who are you to tell me what to do in MY Village? Are you going to shut up, or should I let my ANBU slice your throat to make sure you stay quiet throughout the proceedings?" the aged Hokage explained in a condescending tone. The sweating and petrified councilman simply nodded, and he immediately slumped back on his seat when the sword was removed. The ANBU simply melted back into the shadows awaiting orders. Good. Now that Amira-san here decided to close his mouth, we can proceed. The first order of business is the abolishment of the civilian council, since they are not needed in this village and is a complete waste of time. Chaos erupted from the civilian council while the shinobi council just leaned back on their respective chairs waiting for shit to hit the fan, so to speak. "Silence," the Hokage bellowed in a chakra-amplified voice, shaking the room with its volume, as well as adding a dash of killer intent to drive his point home. The effect was immediate. The silence that followed was deafening. One councilwoman dared to break the silence and spoke in a sweet tone that failed to hide her anger. "Hokage-sama. The civilian council has always been a part of Konoha and will always be so." "Is that so, councilwoman?" According to the laws passed by the Shodame and Naidame Hokage, the civilian council was supposed to be an advisory position, and you are here insinuating that you are, as well as the rest of your counterparts, in charge of the village and should dictate what I should be doing? "I think not, councilwoman, so please sit down and shut up, or you will be taking a quick trip to Ibiki and Enko to loosen your tongue," declared the Hokage in a calm, collected, cold tone that sent shivers down everyone's spine. Seeing that everyone was cowed by his interpretation of the law, he continued. "Now all of you should probably be thinking why I abolished the civilian council, correct?" Seeing a majority of the people nod, he continued. "The reason is simple. I have implicating evidence that a majority of the civilian council have been doing something behind my back that merits to treason and its subsequent punishment. So ANBU. ANBUs materialized behind their respective quarries. Take them to Enko and Ibiki and inform my two chief interrogators to take care of them without any restrictions." "Yes, Hokage-sama." The ANBU accepted the command as one and shunted out of the council room with their respective captives. Now that the garbage is out of the way, the remaining civilian council shall leave this chamber. What we are about to discuss is not a part of your jurisdiction. All of you will be summoned at a later date to finalize whatever decisions I have with the civilian advisors. Dismissed. The remaining ANBU ushered the remaining civilians out of the room before Jiraiya activated his privacy jutsu to make sure that eavesdroppers are not included in the discussion. Tsum, the Inazuka clan head, stood up from his chair and clapped her hands in approval. This was shortly followed by the rest of the shinobi council, to the stunned amazement of the Hokage. "What merits this action?" Tsum asked the aged Hokage. The Inuzuka clan head gave her leader a fanged grin before replying. Nothing much, Hokage-sama. It seems that the famed professor and god of shinobi have returned to his rightful position and have wrested his control back of the leaf. The Hokage nodded and gestured for everyone to silence. Now that everything is out of the way, we are going to be discussing some important changes in the village due to information that come to light with the help of Jiraiya's spy network. Every shinobi council member nodded their heads and waited for the Hokage to tell them what's on his mind. For starters, Koharu and Hamura, your position is no longer yours. I have assigned Jiraiya and Tsunade both as my advisors from now on. You two, however, will be delegated to the Shinobi Academy to enact the changes I want to implement on our future shinobis. Koharu spoke first, with slight venom in her voice. Beg your pardon, Hokage-sama, but we have always been your advisors since you and the fourth took the position. Our knowledge and experience cannot be replaced by both Jiraiya and Tsunade. They are still both young. The aged Hokage smiled. Indeed. But both Tsunade and Jiraiya have experiences that you have lacking. They have experienced the world, Koharu, but you have stayed in the leaf and only in the leaf without any knowledge or information on the outside world. This makes you inadequate in terms of advisors. Both of you have knowledge of history, even I can attest to that, so your position in the Shinobi Academy would be a great boon to the future hopefuls. Hope that is enough explanation to pacify your need for a reason? Both Koharu and Hamura were stunned at the reason of their dismissal. They could never deny the fact that everything spoken was the truth. In fact, Sarutobi was right regarding their experience of the outside world. They just nodded their agreement of their new stations and waited for the Hokage to continue. Next we need to discuss is the possibility that some villages might take a sudden interest in Konoha. The Hokage stated grimly. This topic made all the clan heads frown. The Nara clan head, lead strategist of Konoha, took an interest with this information. What do you mean, Hokage-sama? Instead of the Hokage, Jiraiya addressed the question. I have established a spy network here in the village and I have uncovered some documents wherein the village secrets are being sold to the outside without us knowing about it. Hayashi Hyuga became tense. The failed abduction of his daughter, as well as the demise of his twin brother because of it, was a sore subject despite years of getting over the loss. What kind of information, Jiraiya-sama? He asked tersely. The secrets involved mainly on clan-based information, their numbers and abilities, the village's shinobi forces, mission accomplishment and failures, clan and village patrol info, and more. Those are just the tip of the iceberg. This means that the village has been compromised by the civilian council itself. The chaos and outrage that ensued from the mouths of the clan heads echoed within the hallowed halls, and it was only the Hokage's killer intent that shut them all up. Instead of running around like headless chickens, I am going to be assigning you important orders to counter this problem. I have already taken the first step using Jiraiya's information by taking out the key figures in the council. They are being interrogated by Anko and Ibiki now as we speak, and the secrets they are holding will be on my table hopefully by the end of the week. The Hokage addressed the Nara clan head. Shibi, I want you to come up with a new strategy for the village in case of a sudden invasion. Don't leave a stone unturned. Use any resources we have to boost whatever you need in terms of patrol duty and Konoha's defense. I want Konoha to be on lockdown without the civilian knowing about it. Be discreet. Utilize the Inuzuka, Hyuga, and Aburame shinobis. Use their abilities to set up a defense parameter around Konoha. If someone so much as sneezes outside the walls, I want to know about it. Clear? Nara nodded. Understood. I will draft a strategy immediately after this meeting and will run it by you tomorrow for approval. His keen mind for strategy already working, utilizing clan information and abilities, inserting them into his strategies and forecasts for the defense of the village. Good. Koharu and Hamura. I want you to overhaul the academy. Make sure that the instructors are capable in their respective field. I want to make sure that all the teachings are of equal stature. Train our aspiring genins to be the best. The two ex-advisors nodded. They sat up straight, realizing the importance of their new position regarding the future of Konoha. Danzo, root program will be reactivated immediately under my command. Your forces will be deployed along with Nara's strategy. You are also tasked to deploy your most talented stealth specialist to other villages to scout if there are any active plots against us. If they have, I want to know about it. Also, I will be allowing you to pick sensitive missions that your root shinobi is capable of. Danzo sat straight. Now the Hokage was talking. He was expecting his root to be on standby, but by putting them on the field, then they will be of big use. Of course, Hokage-sama. I will have the assignments ready for you this afternoon. Danzo replied with a little bit of excitement in his voice. The other clan heads noticed it and looked at the grinning Warhawk with trepidation. A smiling Danzo was a crazy Danzo. The Hokage nodded, seeing that he has completely cowed the old Warhawk under his banner. He then looked at Hayashi. Hayashi, I want you to assign a dozen of your branch family members to be taught by Tsunade. Their Byakugan will be invaluable to the hospital, considering that there aren't many capable enough to take care of our wounded. I hope this is under your jurisdiction, asked the Hokage, knowing the internal conflicts with the Hyuga elders and currently have no info on their elders, so he decided to go through Hayashi instead of demanding their services outright. Understood, Hokage-sama. Leave the preparations and selections to me, complied Hayashi, already plotting on how to undermine the current hold of the elders to make sure the Hokage's orders are followed. Chusa, I want you to double-train your clan, since they will become the primary defenders in case our defenses are breached. Your bloodline will allow you to protect the walls, as well as any large attackers in the village, stated the Hokage towards the Akimichi clan head, who nodded in reply. I think that is everything for now. I will be calling the council again in a few months to finalize the plans we have. I expect news of deployment of your orders in the soonest possible time. If you have any questions or additions that is not tackled in this session, then feel free to visit me in my office. Dismissed. With that last statement, Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, have wrested control of Konoha back to his fist and will be tied to anyone who disagree with him.